Where's my script? There it is. Okay, this is Wednesday, January 12th, 2022, a meeting of the Berlin Historical Commission. We're being recorded. And I'm going to confirm attendees. So we'll start with Janet.
Yes, here.
And Elaine.
Yep.
And Carl.
Here.
And Barry.
Yep.
And June. Yes. So with a quorum, I call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Okay, and we're conducting this remotely due to the current state of emergency, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Okay, I think that's enough of that.
And we are being recorded.
Yes. Okay. So the first order of business is our prior minutes, of which we have two. We have December 13th, and then we have January 5th. And both of those were amended. Did everyone get a chance to read the amended version of December 13th?
Can't say I have.
Yes.
Before it was amended, I think.
What did we, Barry needs to have a look. That's January 5. Where's, oh, here you go. Here's December 13.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was all right.
Yeah, we had two changes. One was an addition, and that was to acknowledge that we welcome both Janet and Carl. And the second one was that I gave information that Barry did not give during the meeting on the cellar stairway. That was something that,
Oh, yeah.
that was something that I think he,
I said at another time.
yeah. So that's changed also. So let's have a motion to approve the December 13th minutes.
So moved.
And a second?
You've got,
Okay, and all those in favor? Janet,
Yes.
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Carl and Elaine,
Yes.
and June. Okay, unanimous. Okay, so
all
the,
right.
and Barry. The January 5th meeting, that had an amendment too, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, it had an addition, and the addition was that Carl volunteered to go forward with an action item, and that was to list the responsibilities for an MHC grant.
Round 29 grant.
Round 29, yeah.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to approve January 5th
So moved.
and a second?
I'd like to have a discussion, please, if we could.
Sure.
Or do you want the second? How do you want to handle it? Do you want to go to the second, then the discussion? Or do you want to have this discussion first? Whatever you want
Doesn't
to
matter.
do. Oh, it
Go
doesn't matter?
ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I'd like to point out that I have a concern with respect to what was in the minutes, and I'll read it. June noted that there were many negative judgments expressed in the presentation and asked about positive feedback. So I have a concern with the term negative judgment. Presentations I put together were based on facts that I derived mostly from the Commission's own 2016 report, the Wool Heater report, discussions with Wool Heater, and other If in the course of my presentation, I pointed out things like work that had to be redone, and if that was considered negative, that's a fact, and I can't change history. So I'm not suggesting that the minutes be changed. I am going to request that this evening's minutes reflect my objection.
Okay. Do you want the wording changed, or do you want it?
No, you can leave the
omitted?
minutes. You can leave the minutes, as far as I'm concerned, the way they are, and I would vote for them, but I want this evening's minutes to reflect my objection to the language.
Which words?
Negative judgments based on the fact that my presentations were based on facts,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
not judgments.
I think I've got that, June. I just want to make sure I got the wording. Okay,
The sentence that begins with June noted.
Yep. Yep.
So in this, in this set of minutes, he objected to that sentence, but he didn't, he voted in favor of the minutes.
Okay, so we've now.
But I'd like a statement as to why I objected, not just I objected. I objected because, you know, the presentation was made on facts, not judgments.
Okay, so the minutes of this meeting will reflect
Thank you.
the objection and the reason.
Thank you.
So now we need a second.
Second.
Okay. And all those in favor, let's see, we need a roll call vote. Janet?
then that,
Wow.
excuse me, just a clarification, that this will go in the minutes. That's what I'm voting on, right?
No, this is voting on the minutes that are, the minutes that.
Oh,
has-
okay, okay.
This is to approve the minutes of that last meeting.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, yes, I approve them.
Okay, and Carl
Yeah, I approve.
and
Yes.
Elaine and Barry
Aye.
and June, aye. Okay, unanimous approval. Okay, so that's both sets of minutes. And the next order of business is a financial update. And Elaine, could you just summarize where we are financially?
Yeah, I have to sign off on the town accountant's papers, and there's been no change in our, we haven't spent any money, so that's all the same. And her numbers jive with mine on what will remain in the mitigation money, and that's $11,044.74. After all the work is done, after all of the things that are outstanding right now are done. The threshold, the final study, and the stairs.
Okay. I just want to say that I've tried to have a deposit paid to Ever-Present for the digitization of the inventories.
Mhm.
And when Barry and I delivered the inventories, we gave them
A
the
town
agreement.
check.
No, we didn't give them a check. We gave them a signed agreement by Margaret.
Yeah.
And we gave them a W-9 to fill out. But they haven't filled it out yet. They haven't filled out the W-9 yet. So this process is being held up some. Just so you know, I'm trying, but it's been held up.
Yeah.
Now,
Hmm.
the next thing is the annual report, and two things that Carl and Elaine noted were the full title of Cronenberger and Tim Walhuter. And also somehow I reversed U and E in his name, so that needs to be fixed. Did anybody else notice anything they want to add besides the demolition delay information? And probably there are other,
Yeah, I've got something more on the 90th birthday.
yeah,
so-
we probably have a couple more people that turned 90. Those were just two people that I know for sure did. Barry, do you want to say something about demolition delay?
Well, we've had two or three, I mean, there've been a few things we've talked about. Most of them have been cases of alteration of buildings that really don't involve us. They were interior, not visible to the public or whatever. We did have the storage building at Cowell's, which we dealt with a year ago, but we've dealt with it again in the past, in this year. And most of that building has been removed now. The other is, when I say Codwell's, I should say at National Lumber. And the 58 South Street house, which is still up at the moment, but we released that one. And there was one other that released.
What was the second one? One was Central Street. The other one was,
National Lumber.
well, at any rate, we do want to say something about Walnut Street, right?
Oh, yes, and Walnut Street. The greenhouses and stuff at Walnut Street. We acted on that one too.
So
That's
65 Walnut.
65 Walnut Street.
So we'll say something about that. And do you think we need to say anything about the other?
No, I mean, we declared, in each case, we declared that they were not historically significant, and certainly in regard to the greenhouses, that the condition, any significance they had is lost by the poor condition. They weren't really retainable.
Okay. So,
That was one of the early greenhouse, one of those buildings was one of the early greenhouses in Berlin, but it's not restorable, and they do plan to keep some of the glass from it and use it in some fashion in the future.
the chimney's still standing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
Jim, can
after we
Jim?
craft the language for demo delay and we get a full count of our 90th, our people who turned 90 this year, then I'll send this out again. This has to be in by the end of the month.
Yeah.
Or before the end of the month, or,
I don't know, but I think it's the 20th, they're close to that date. We're getting close to that.
okay, so I'll try to send that out as soon as possible, and then just email me that it's okay. And I can submit it. Okay, good. Do we need a motion on that?
Does anybody else have something else to discuss on it?
Not here.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Okay, so there are several things under the Bullard House. The first one should have been the threshold. Elaine, do you want to just summarize what's happened with the threshold, notice to proceed, and
Well,
go ahead.
he's been authorized. I haven't heard anything about when they'll be there. So they've got to mill it and then install it. but I'll keep you posted.
Okay, and then any questions on the threshold?
Do you know if they're waiting for anything more from us?
No,
Okay.
Elaine, who's doing that work?
Cronenberger and Sons,
Okay,
the same people who did the sill work.
thanks.
And the next thing would be the cellar stairs
And
statement of work, and that's been sent, right?
I believe,
Yeah, that Margaret issued a authorization to proceed, and that was sent to Tim. Whether he signed it yet and sent it back, I'm not aware at this moment. Margaret's been very busy trying to get things cleaned up. I think we're probably all aware that she's going to be going on an extended medical leave by the end of this week. So she's been trying to clear the decks, if you will, of any tasks that she's involved with. So I believe that has been sent to Tim, and whether he has signed it and sent it back yet, I'm not aware at this time. It was just recently sent out.
Okay, any questions about the cellar stairs? I just want to note that Tim needs to submit a plan that we can have a look at before we go forward.
That is in his statement of work.
That's right. Okay. So the next thing is the CPA pre-application that we voted on last Wednesday on January 5th. And Carl sent us, Carl and Elaine. I'm looking for I don't think Barry's had a chance to look at that.
I looked at
Did you
something.
look at? It's a cash flow analysis. Yeah, here it is. Here it is.
I saw the list of work. I reviewed that. I reviewed this stuff.
You did. Okay, so you've seen that.
Oh, okay.
So Carl sent us a message along with a attachment requesting that we reach a consensus, a final consensus with regard to requesting the additional 100 grand of CPA funds so that we can submit that pre-application before January 26th, which is coming up. And that any, hard estimates that we don't have, we will have in time for the final application that needs to go before
This
the
is
warrant
actually-
closes.
it's going to be very close.
Yeah.
Before it's not the.
Would you like me to walk through
Sure.
the
Yeah.
document?
Yep.
So there's a couple of reasons for the document, okay? One is that if we go forward with round 29, we are going to have to submit it as that grant, a cash flow analysis. So this is a first stab at it, if you will, okay? And there are a lot of moving parts here. Everything isn't solidified, so things are going to change. But it's based on the current information we have. I had another thought I was going to mention, it just escaped me now. I'll come back to that, I guess. So what I have identified is, and the tasks only refer to the tasks here in this document, so we can distinguish things. And task A is the basic requirements that we've already identified: foundation restoration, cement floor, drainage and bulkhead. And for those, we have $100,000 of funds in hand as a result of the CPA funding. Task B are other tasks that I picked out of Will Heater's report. The numbers come out of his report. And if you added that all up, it came out to 101,800. Well, for this purpose, like I say, this is not cast in concrete. I rounded it to $100,000, all right, to come up with a potential $200,000 round 29 grant request, which would be shared 50-50 with the Mass Historical Commission. Then we get into task C here, which is the CPA funding. Okay, there's 56,000 already in the CPA account
Historical.
for historical. We will be requesting another 44,000, and this application work has to start now. Lane and I will be working on that, and we're attempting to get it in before the 26th. So the total request would be $100,000 that would be subject to the voters' approval at the May 22 meeting. So we arrived, or I should say under task D, identify how such funds may be spent, the additional 100,000. So we're going to absolutely have to fund an architect, whether we go forward with the grant or not. We're going to need to get an architect on board. So I came up with a $30,000 figure for that, based on the total grant of $200,000. And I came up with that number by talking to Lee Tabor, who I think most of you know, perhaps was a former architect. He's no longer a licensed architect. And he and I had a very cordial and lengthy discussion. And the initial purpose of my call to him was to get a sense as to what architects might be looking for on a percentage basis for a total project. And he gave the recommendation of 10 to 15%. So there's no need of going in at 10%. So I used the 15% number, and that's how I come up with 30,000. The next number is 60,000, and this is an arbitrary number. Okay. At the moment, it's not substantiated by anything. But we know we're going to have an archaeological survey. And let me mention that this task is a task that if we got a round 29 grant, could be funded 50-50 between the state and us. But at the moment, I put it in here just so I could come up with a reasonable rationale as to why we need the $60,000. I have talked once again to the individual in Connecticut. Greg is his name. He runs, what was it, ACS or ASC? ACS company, I guess, in Connecticut. And he's prepared to work with us and give us an estimate. What I need to send to him for him to do that would be the Will Heater task description, less the dollars that are shown there relative to the foundation restoration and the drainage work. I also need to send to him, and I'm going to ask June if you could possibly help out with this. I have here the FY17 Community Preservation Mitigation Funding document. I know you can't see the print, but the point is, I don't know if you have this document electronically, but I'd like to send him, first of all, a photo of the house itself. And secondly, in this document, is this?
I don't think it's the mitigation.
Well, the mitigation proposal.
Yeah, this was the mitigation proposal, right? You
Yeah.
probably can't see this. Does that help any if I hold it closer? This is the layout that's attached to it. It's a scale of the square footage. And it's all in the same document.
Yeah.
Now, if it's not, if you all folks don't have it available, June, if you don't have it, my plan B would be to talk to Mary in the town offices, have her photocopy this, download it to her computer, and then send it to Elaine, so we have it in our computer. So if you have it, it would save me a trip running down to the town offices and bothering Mary. So anyways, I'm sorry?
We can scan it here. and
Okay, do you
send
have
it
that
to you.
capability? Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have that capability. If you have it, that
Well,
works.
I created the document and I can't answer right now what exactly is in the computer, but I know that Mary scanned the entire document and then threw the original away, much to my chagrin. But so she has a scan of the entire document already anyway. So we'll check on that. I certainly have got the plan of the built of the rooms.
Yeah, so if I have those three pieces, the photo, the schematic or drawing or whatever you want to call it of the footprint, and the task description, which we have, Elaine and I have already, I'd like to send that to Greg in Connecticut as soon as possible, so he can get us a quote back, so we have it in hand and have some idea of what a survey might cost, so that we can put it in the second round of the CPA activity. Along that same line, okay?
Can I just ask a question first?
Sure.
The task description would be, do we have a firm description of the foundation work?
Well, in Tim Woolheater's survey report is a lengthy description of the condition of the foundation and the groundwork disturbance that would be necessary. And that's what this Greg needs to understand in order for him to come up with an estimate. So I think that would
So
be
that's-
adequate.
Okay.
That's the document I would send him, less the dollars that are shown in there. Tim has $90,000 shown on that page. That would not be forwarded to Greg. Just the verbiage.
Okay.
June, could I ask a question? June, where are
Yeah,
you?
sure.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I just want to make sure I've got this right. So the grant request, where we're going to request is 200,000. Yes?
Potentially.
Potentially. 100,000 from CPA. 30,000 of that goes to the historic architect.
No.
No, that's why I wanted to get
All right,
this.
let me try to clarify that if I may, June, if you'd like me to.
Sure.
So we have $100,000 in hand of CPA funds. Those are dedicated to specific tasks: the foundation restoration, the cement floor, the drainage, and the bulkhead. There are no architectural monies in that.
Okay.
And by the way, and this is a thought I wanted to bring up earlier, architectural fees under a production round 29 grant are not allowable costs. So
Right.
we have to come up with the architectural fee monies. And that's why we're going for the extra $100,000 this month of CPA funds, both for the architectural fees and to cover additional tasks that are forthcoming, which is the archaeological survey, and more importantly, the Squaw Hollow supplement relative to the studying under the floors in the crawl area. And we don't know what that number is at this time. Hopefully by mid-February, we will have that number. That's Tim's schedule.
So the 30,000, can we go back to that for a minute before we?
Sure thing.
30,000 was for what then, if it's not?
It's $30,000 is 15%
Yeah.
of the $200,000 grant, which would be earmarked for architectural services.
Got it.
Now,
And then
Also-
60,000 for the
I don't understand.
archaeological survey.
and the Squaw Hollow supplement that's forthcoming,
Mhm.
and to make things rounded, I put $20,000 in for door repairs that are again out of the Squaw Hollow report.
Mhm.
So that's $60,000 worth of tasks. Now, we would also need to have architectural services for those $60,000 worth of tasks. And using the 15%, that's $10,000 rounded. The actual math comes out to 9K. But again, there are a lot of moving parts here. We don't need to be this precise at this moment. So that 10K is for the architectural services associated with the potential $60,000 worth of tasks.
Thank you.
Okay, I
Oh,
guess I don't quite understand number 2 under task D. Sorry.
Okay.
I
I
understand that, I understand the 60 grand is just the best we can do right now to put
The
a-
objective here is to get to $100,000. We know we have some tasks coming down the pike. We don't know what the prices are at the moment. So 60,000 is an arbitrary number. And that can change when we get more facts in hand, right? But because we're up against a deadline, and this would all be explained in the CPA, by the way, we're not going to hold anything back. We're going to be straightforward. We're going to tell them this is the first round of the CPA. We need the 60,000 for these tasks. We're going to have hopefully better estimates for the archaeological survey and for the supplement task forthcoming, and we will get that into the final application sometime before the warrant closes. That's the goal.
Okay, so the fact that if you added all these up, it would be over 100 grand is really just
No,
doesn't matter.
the math should come to 100. So let's see. Did I mess up?
So 100, well, $20,000 to me is under number 2, but it's not for archaeology.
No,
This
no,
is
that's
for
for doors.
for these
No,
things.
you only have to look at the $60,000 number. You can pretend that the 20,000 is in the 60. That we know. We know, we
This
have
is
it.
part of the 60,000.
Right,
we-
but the way it's expressed here, it's not, I don't think I would be able to figure that out.
Well, we say $60,000 is for archaeological surveys. We don't have an estimate yet. Semicolon, it's for Squaw Hollow supplement. We don't have an estimate yet. Semicolon, $20,000 for doors. That's out of the Squaw Hollow estimate. Okay. And add it all up, it comes to 60 grand.
Or some combination of these items.
Or some combination, right? Because there's a lot of moving parts there, you know?
That's right.
Nothing's solidified, right, exactly. It's the best we can do with what we have at the moment. And we're up against the deadline to get the CPA in. So we're going to put these numbers in, be straightforward like we have here and saying, you know, everything isn't firmed up, but we got some time to firm it up. And hopefully by the time comes that we have to do that, we'll have better numbers in hand and we'll pass them on to you at that time. So that's generally how this next round of CPA is going to be addressed. And I don't know what else. I don't know what else to do at this point. You know, because we need to make sure, if nothing else, we have the architect covered. Because this is the only place we can pay for the architect. We can't pay it out of the 100 grand we got in the bank already. We can't pay it out of the potential 100 grand we're going to get from the state if we get an award. So we need to find a source for the architectural fees, which are going to be in the range of $30,000 to $40,000 for the whole Megillah. And this is our only opportunity to seek those funds. Now, if the town turns us down, then it's a whole new ballgame, and we'll have to go back and decide how we're going to approach it from that point on.
Well, if The town can vote a lower amount if they want to, can't they?
Yes, they can.
Yeah, well,
I'm just trying to look at other options. If they only wanted to give us what's in the historic pot, which is 56 grand, and they didn't want to give us any extra.
Well, can
then
I say
we'd,
something?
then we'd have to use the 56 grand to pay for the architect, and whatever is left over for some other task that we could fit with the balance.
Right,
Sure.
and there may not be money available. You know, there are other people applying for this money with CPAC, so we'll have to
Sure.
see at next week's meeting
That's right.
whether we can even get it.
So
Yeah.
again, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts here, but this is the best we can do with what we have at the moment, I believe.
I want to make sure I understand the total of this thing. Are we planning to pay for the foundation work with the current 100,000?
The 100,000 that's in the bank, that's my understanding, yes.
And then the task B list, we would pay with the state money if we get the 100,000 from the state?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And again,
And the
excuse me, Barry, just
CPA money that we're now applying for would be for the pile at the bottom in task C and D.
yes,
So in other words, our application to the CPA is for money that we would use with the state money to accomplish all the stuff that's up above, as well as the
Yep.
100,000 we've already spent.
Right,
that's
All
correct.
right,
That's correct.
I mean, we have big lists, so,
Yeah, and what I was going to say under task B, here again, to fit the model, there are moving parts there. We may, depending on how it all works out, we could pull items out of that task B listing and put other items in from Will Heater's report or whatever. We might put back in, for example, the archaeological survey up there if things don't fit the way they have to fit. So
yeah,
again, it's the best we can do with what we have at the moment.
Hmm.
So I think all I'm looking for tonight is a consensus, all right, that Elaine and I should go forward in preparing the CPA application, round one application CPA for the items identified in task C and D, and come up with the wording and the justification, etc. And that's the consensus we're looking for. I don't know that we have to have a formal vote. I think it's just a consensus that we need, that that's the way we're going, if that's what we agree.
Yeah, I have a question. In your summary, the third sentence, use CPA funds to pay for restoration and architectural task D.
Yeah. Items 2 and 3.
So what that means is to pay for the archaeology and the architectural services that would cover that. Is that right? Is that how you got the 70K?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna write that in my notes because so the third sentence is for archaeology, which is estimated as best we can at 60K.
No, the archaeological is not estimated at 60K. The archaeological number is unknown at the moment, as well as the supplement is unknown. The number $60,000 is an arbitrary number.
all right. Archaeological survey, Squaw Hollow estimate, Squaw Hollow supplement, all three of those things.
And the
together
doors, I got the
make
20,
$60,000.
I got the 20 grand in there for the doors too.
I'm trying not to confuse it.
Yeah, okay.
We
Okay,
got these three things that we are looking for total of $60,000 for, the three things that are listed here. Don't worry about the 20. It's just confusing you.
Okay,
The 20 is included in the 60.
okay.
I'm going to just observe this and think of it what you want to. You can take the 200,000 in the CPA, you can take the second 100,000 in CPA money and do task B and forget the state. Because you're spending $100,000 of the town's money in order to get 100,000 from the state.
Well, we were gonna spend 100,000 anyway.
I think,
I'm not convinced you are.
yes, but we need the architect.
So, you know-
Archaeology for CPA, I think.
For CPA,
Yep. Because, well, first of all, Margaret's judgment that it was that the foundation was a complicated matter. That requires, doesn't that require some architectural oversight?
To do the 100 grand task for which the money is in the bank, we absolutely need to have architectural input.
And we also, I mean, even though, and we're obligated to observe archaeological survey also for CPA.
Not for CPA, for the state.
For the state grant, you are, I don't believe it's a requirement.
It's not for the,
It is, Margaret clarified, a archaeological survey is not required
Yeah.
for CPA. Living up to the interior standards, Secretary of the Interior Standards is a requirement. The grant round 9 and round 28 and 9 will require an archaeological survey, which is shareable, allowable cost. And that has to be done because of the ground disturbance anticipated.
But I thought in the reply that we got from the Central, was it Central Mass Planning?
No, it was
no,
Who
the
was that
CPA,
from?
it was a CPA expert in Boston
Stuart Saginaw.
that
Right.
stated, and I don't have it in front of me, that stated that we would need, and I don't know that he used the word architect, but we would need professionals to come up with the statement of work, specifications and things of that nature. We asked what precipitated his email was my inquiry to Margaret early
Right,
on, that I read a Mass Historical Commission document that said if you're using state funds, it said, and if you're going to disturb the ground, you need to have an archaeological survey. So my question to Margaret was, in effect, does the same apply using CPA funds? She wasn't sure. She went to the guy in Boston, can't remember his name right offhand, Stuart somebody, who's the head CPA guy. And he came back and said, no, these are not considered state funds. These are funds that come out of the Registry of Deed organization. Therefore, you do not have to have an archaeological survey using CPA funds.
right. I understand all of that. But but CPA demands adherence to the Secretary of the Department of the Interior standards for preservation.
That's correct. That standard does not require an archaeological survey.
You're sure?
Mhm.
Best of my knowledge, that's correct. And I'm relying on the expert in Boston.
Okay, we have that email. I'll have to look it up. I just need to satisfy my understanding of his reply.
Okay.
But I and I'll try to find that. But for purposes of this, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter that I find that right now. So
So can I ask the question again, please?
Yes.
do we have a consensus that Elaine and I should go forward and write the next CPA grant using the data we've presented this evening?
If,
I'm still trying to ask, I'm still trying to get my mind around a little bit more of this. In general, I'm comfortable with your intent. But we actually have $300,000 we're talking about here, right?
And we're facing $400,000 worth of repairs.
No, but I mean, what I'm getting is we've got 100,000 in hand. We got 100,000 we're about to ask for from CPA. And then we hope to get another 100,000 from the state, right?
We have $100,000 in hand for a task for which we need archaeological services against, for which we have no monies to do that.
well, if,
We have a potential of getting another $100,000 for additional tasks above the tasks outlined in the $100,000 we have in hand. Then we are asking for an additional $100,000 to cover additional tasks that are in the wool heater report and supplement, plus the necessary funds to cover to cover architectural services. That's what it boils down to.
Where's the state money going to be used for? And how much money are we expecting?
The state money is going to be used. Well, let's go back to the presentation again, folks. The state money is going to be used for Task B. Adds up to $101,800, which I rounded up to 100,000 just to make the math work. And again, those aren't cast in concrete. As things change, we could pull some of those tasks out and put other tasks in, as long as we can get to the $200,000.
if,
Why do we have to have, it isn't the state grant a matching grant, 50-50? Money from us and money from the state?
Yes. So we can get $200,000. We're going to come up with 100,000. They're going to come up with 100,000.
Right.
we're only using task A money to make the match, is that right?
Yes, because we can't ask for architectural from them.
Right,
That's a separate thing, and we've missed the window on that.
but they will pay half of the archaeological survey if we get anything from them.
Right.
If we get, so our half of the match with the state is going to be spent in task D.
That's correct.
And the state's going to pay for task B.
That's correct. We're not going to break it out like that in the grant, right? The way we would address it in the grant is, here are the tasks we're going to do for $200,000. And it's going to be, again, not cast in concrete, folks. It's going to be certainly most of the tasks in the items in task A and the items identified or some facsimile thereof in task B. So we're not going to break it out this way. We'd say, here's everything we want to do for $200,000. Please send us $100,000 to do that, because we got the other $100,000 to do that.
And the task, the other 100,000 is the 100,000 that we're going to have to spend in order to get the state's 100,000.
Well,
The other 100,000,
we have to spend
It's
the money
necess-
anyway.
the other 100,000, the other $100,000 is necessary for, number one, pay for the architectural services to do a $200,000 grant. There's no other source of money available at the moment that I'm aware of, other than the CPA funds. So there's 30,000 of it. We already have 56. The plan was to go for additional 44 to add up to 100,000. So there are other tasks that we know somehow have to get done that we would manage on our own without the state
Input.
input. And those are the tasks I've listed there, 2 of which we don't have any dollars against at the moment. And then the other 10K is to pay for the archaeological services for those $60,000 worth of tasks.
Well, if we, how do you, I guess I'm wondering if the town will vote to give us that much money.
Well, we can't speculate. I mean, if they don't, hey, look, you know,
Wait,
we
it might
can't,
not even-
wait a minute, no, please, look. You know, we can't speculate what the voters are gonna do, all right? We're gonna make our best attempt to convince them this is the right thing to do, and it is, okay? If they vote against it, or they say you can't have 100 grand, you can only have 40 grand, then we gotta go back to the planning board and decide what we're gonna do with 40 grand. If they say you can't have any money at all, then we gotta go back to the planning board and say, well, what the heck are we gonna do now? Because we can't pay for an architect. So maybe we don't go in for the grant. I mean, we could speculate all
Planning
evening.
board has nothing to do with it. Elaine, what would you like to say, please?
Did I say, I'm sorry, did I misspeak and say
Yeah, you
planning
said
board?
planning board.
I misspoke, you know, I'm pushing 80, that happens sometimes.
Are you
Apologize for
thinking,
that.
are you talking about the CPA committee?
Yes, I guess it was the CPA committee I was referring to.
Okay, Elaine,
Okay, we haven't even gotten it to the CPA committee yet. This is a wish that we have the $100,000. We know we have 56. Okay, there are other
well,
people.
we know that
who-
there's 56 there.
Right. So I'll know Wednesday night.
Yeah.
But we'd like, there's a lot of work involved in this, and we've already put a lot into it, and we can't waste time. We're
Unless there's something factually wrong that
Yeah.
I've overlooked, please bring it to my attention, I'd be glad to correct it. It's the best data I have at the present time. Now, we either make a decision and get a consensus that we go apply for the CPA funds, or we don't. If you don't want to, fine. Makes
I
my
just
makes our
wanted
job
That isn't
easier.
the point.
I just want to
what's the point?
understand the numbers.
Well, would you like me to go through them for the 4th time? I can do that again. I mean,
No, I don't think you need to.
it's a moving target.
I said, that, you know, there's nothing, there's not a lot of firm things here. We're working with the best data we have at the present time. And there's a lot of moving parts, which we have no control over. And once we get things solidified, and once people on the town floor make decisions, well, we're gonna know where we stand. And not at the moment, it's the best we have.
Well, and we can expect that some of these things are gonna move and squiggle a bit on us between now and
Absolutely.
May.
I said that at the outset of the presentation. Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, can we
I
have a
think we have to
motion then to arrive at a consensus here? A consensus.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to think positive. I mean, we have to keep moving forward with the project.
I move that the proposal be pursued with the CPA committee. And
I can't do that without some sort of approval from you guys.
Unless he's making a motion.
that's
Oh,
what
all
I'm
right.
trying to do.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
making a motion.
That's what we're trying to do, is vote to go ahead to the CPA committee with the proposal.
So there's a motion that the proposal be, the proposal to the CPA as presented in this attachment here be pursued.
Seconded.
Read what you have again, please.
Barry Ager moved that the proposal to the CPA committee the MHC round 29 cash flow analysis and the CPA funding request, because that's what we have to go by here, be pursued.
be presented to the CPA committee as a request.
Move that the proposal as outlined in this attachment, and I can name it, be presented to the CPA committee as a request.
Mhm.
Does that cover consensus?
No, forget consensus. That's the action.
No, but they're,
Yeah, if we all vote on the motion, then we have the consensus. If everybody, we
I
agree
just
on the
wanted
motion.
to make sure it
Yeah.
answered the
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that, so we need a second, and
Second,
Carl just seconded it, and Janet
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah.
and Elaine
Yes,
and Carl
yes.
and Barry
Yes,
and June, yes. So the vote is unanimous. Okay,
this is a long process. There will be ups and downs and pluses and minuses, and we make our way through it as the things develop.
Correct.
Well said.
okay. The next item was following up on the fact that we did not get to meet on January 5th in the morning to move ahead with removing and relocating the items that we have in the board house.
By the way, June, thank you to people who accommodated me on that. I had just been hearing about how much trouble the hospitals were in, and I was thinking about my mom, my 100-year-old mom, and I said, you know, I really can't go there.
Yeah.
And it was kind of you all to not go there, and so that I didn't miss out.
Well, Barry had a funeral that
Yes,
couldn't,
that's right.
certainly couldn't be moved, and I'm struggling a bit with a couple of medical issues. So
When can we put together a time that we all can go?
Yes.
And do we have to wait a couple of weeks or something to get an idea of where the pandemic is? To decide that.
I don't think the pandemic is going to go away in a couple of weeks. And I think maybe the thing is we adjust to that and realize we can't stop doing everything. You know, when something first picks up, you kind of wait to see if it's just going to be short-lived. But I think as long as we all agree to wear masks, which we'd want to do anyway in there, and, you know, keep somewhat of a distance, I would be comfortable doing a little work.
I want to say that we have been busily working our way through moving some things out and determining some things that can be dealt with otherwise. We've been continuing to work on that during the past month and are making progress on it so that hopefully the task will be a little bit less when we come to do the meeting.
That's great.
we had a little progress today. I had a conversation with Jane Sawyer, who is a new director
For the Historical
for the
Society.
Historical Society, and she said, when can I come and help organize things and take things away or whatever? And I invited her to come today during our 2 hours that we have on Wednesdays. And I asked her if she wouldn't look at some of the furniture we have and see if it's worth putting into a yard sale, a vintage flea market that we hopefully will have as soon as we have some decent weather. And we showed her, I don't know, 7 or 8 things, and she gave her opinion, and it was very helpful.
That's great.
Yeah,
much of this stuff was yard sale material that we had there. But there were a couple of things that have been collection material over a longer term that we probably don't need as collection material.
so that's one thing that will help us in our decisions. I just wanted, I mean, once if we decide to go there in person, which I guess Janet is okay with, then I think that the first thing that we should do is take whatever we believe to be collection items and put those together. Maybe in that middle room upstairs where there are so many collection items already, just so that I think organization of the most important thing, which is our collection, which remains, part of which remains there. If we could get that in one place, it would make me happy. And that should be a fairly straightforward task.
Is that basically the stuff that's in that room at the top of the stairs? The
There
big
are,
Yeah.
the little room,
No, I'm saying all of the things, all of the things that have been donated are in that room upstairs, at the top of the stairs, right? The winding stairs.
yes. That's where the bulk of the collection items are, as far as I know. Then there are a few stragglers in other rooms. If we could just get those in one space, I would be happy. That would make me happy. Then there are two other categories, obvious categories. One are, things that the society has used for exhibits and displays. I think we should, if we have time that day, we should identify what those things are and put them in a safe place for now. There's no other safe place where we can put them right now. Once we know how much there is, perhaps we can make another decision as to what is really safe and important to keep there, because that is their home, and what we can't keep there. And then
I don't think we can keep anything good there that is part of the collection. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of work going on.
Let me point out as well, okay, and I know we haven't got to it yet, and I don't want to jump the gun, but in the document that I prepared identifying what's required for the potential round 29, under item 4A, there's going to be a need to submit photographs as examples of interior spaces sufficient to convey the property's integrity. So if we're going to have to submit photographs of the interior, it's going to be pretty clean by the time we have to get to this task. So I'll just interject that for your consideration.
I don't know if, as a commission, we're capable of actually cleaning the building. I'm really not comfortable with that.
Well, that's why at the Historical Society meeting, the special meeting that we called for, all right, we asked for the Historical Society's help to do that, because
Right, but
And that's what we would do when we're ready to do that. That's
Well,
what
we-
we're doing. In fact, in moving the stuff out, we're going to ask for people's help.
right.
Right.
I think you can ask for help moving out, but cleaning the rooms, I think, is going to take something more than we can provide. Something definitely more than I can provide.
I think you're
When
concerned
you-
about health and
we don't have
safety too.
excuse me, are you talking about physical cleaning, soap and water type of cleaning, or cleaning out?
Well, broom cleaning,
Well,
even broom cleaning.
I wasn't referring to that. I mean, I'm talking about cleaning out the artifacts and whatever else is there. I'm not talking about scrubbing the place down for photographs. I don't think that's the intent at all. They just want to see what the interior looks like. They're not going to say, oh, you got an inch of dust here. I mean, that's not what they're looking at. They want to see what the interior is. In order to take photos of the interior, we don't want to have stacks of stuff, of artifacts and other stuff here and there. We need to have a clean, and not soap and water clean, but a vacated, if you will, facility by the time we need to take photographs.
We do have some photographs which were taken some years ago, which would be very adequate to that task for some of the spaces.
That may be a good idea, Barry, but I'll only point out they are very specific in the grant as to how they want the photographs. And if what you have satisfies this requirement, that's terrific. If not, then we got to do what we got to do to satisfy the grant.
Well, in that case, let's see what those requirements are so that we can be planning ahead for it.
That's the purpose. That's the purpose of my document. We're not going to make those decisions tonight.
No.
Okay. It's
But
just
if
a
we have that
highlight.
information, then we can try to figure out what more we
Right,
need
exactly.
to plan for.
Exactly. And that's the whole purpose of the document, which I don't want to jump ahead to, but since we're talking about emptying the billet house, I thought I would bring that to your attention. You're gonna have to excuse me for a minute. I got to throw a couple of logs on the wood stove. I'll be right back.
We're almost done here. Yeah. Okay, so
Now, are you sticking to your Wednesdays at the curatorial building?
Yes,
yes, we are.
currently.
Well, we're trying to. So when Carl comes back, we need to agree on a meeting time there. And I just want to say I can't do it next week. I don't know when, I don't actually know. But you can do it without me, I'm sure.
All right. Sorry about that. I need to feed the wood stove.
Yeah. Do we want to consider actually going there in person again?
You know, with the weather conditions so unpredictable, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's the only thought I had, but
Well, we used to try to do it on Wednesday morning. I don't know if you wanted to stick to that and just mark off the next whatever Wednesday mornings, and
If it's a day that we can all get there, we'll do it.
yeah, I think, you know, if enough of us can go each time, we can get there, you know, get through it.
Yeah.
That worked pretty well, doing that in the winter.
Well, I would like to say that whoever goes on any one of those mornings, I think you need to get together first and decide what it is you want to accomplish.
Right. Do you have any priorities?
Yes, but the first priority would be to scout out whatever belongs to the collection and put it in one room.
Okay.
That to me is the first priority. The second priority is to identify things that belong to the society. And I'll just leave it there because we don't have a plan for what happens to it or whether it can stay.
What about junk that we come across? I mean, that's
And
true
the
junk.
junk is more the junk is a little more problematic with some of us. So,
Well, it has to be emptied.
but the junk is the junk has to go. We just have to identify what's junk. And perhaps we can get a handle on that the first time we get there. And then that could be that could be the final thing, is to remove that. If everyone's in agreement that something doesn't belong, we can just put it out on the lawn right then and there. But I really wish we could concentrate on collection items being in one place if possible, and society items being in another.
Yeah, has all of that stuff been gone through in that room? Do we know what we're keeping and what we think we'd like to get rid of? Has all of it been gone through? Because
Are you talking about what we think are collection items or what have been labeled as collection items? I don't know what those things are, no. And I don't want to go through them now. I just want them in one place. Once we get them in one place, I think that we can get help to go through them.
And is it obvious which things are, I mean, are these in boxes? So we just have to open the boxes and peek in and see that it's collection items?
Most of them are, well, many of them are labeled.
Okay.
That's all I really know.
And most of them are boxed, but there are things that aren't. And
Yeah,
there are miscellaneous boxes as well as individual boxes, of course.
I just hate moving stuff and then moving stuff again. That's my only hang up.
Yes,
Can
but
I
if
ask
we,
what the lighting is like in there? I mean, I think morning's a good time to go in, but
Right.
I'm trying to picture this happening, and that these are these boxes and we open them up and it's too dark to see what's in there.
Oh, no.
I think
no,
that's a
no.
different, I think
it's
that's a different stage to this operation, is examining the contents of the boxes. Yeah, I mean, you
We
can,
won't even know what, I mean, I assume that if they're closed boxes, they have something that we're supposed to decide yay or nay on. Is that right?
If they're
If it's-
already in one, yeah. Sorry.
if they're labeled, then they're a collection item. If they're not labeled, and there's some question that they're a collection item, I think they should just be saved there in that location. If a piece of junk is in the middle of something, let's take that out, at least separate it from.
I mean, there's so many ways you can do this that I just as soon say, okay, June, you're the chairman. We're going to do it that way, because even if we have another way that we personally would do it, you know, that's just the way cleaning is.
I'm just thinking of the amount of material there, and I think it could stay in that room because you're going to need space to look at it when you are moving it out. You know, finally moving it out.
Well,
A
we
little
actually, one of the things that we've done recently, and it's still in process, is we had, 6 to 10 boxes of stuff that came out of the Grange closet when the Grange gave up their business in the town hall. And I took it over there. Edith Brewer and I went through it a week or so ago. And I guess it was 2 weeks ago, we actually went through it. We've been working our way through that. Some of it we're going through and sorting out some papers to keep while most of it's being thrown out, like old financial papers. Some of the other things are things that we will definitely keep because they're records of the organization and who was members and that kind of thing. And then there's also some material we're going to offer to the Grange, the Massachusetts State Grange Museum, if they want them. And then if they don't want them, we'll have to think about how else we can dispose of them. But that's the process, the kind of process you go through with these things. And we're doing, Edie and I are working on that one periodically right now. And I hope we'll actually have that part of it done before we go in there to do this evaluation we're talking about. I mean, that's just one example of process that we're going through, dealing with stuff that is collection stuff, but maybe has never been weeded adequately yet. And that's what we're trying to do with that. And we can do the same with some more things over time.
Why don't we pick a date, get together and decide on a day?
How about, you're not available this week, June? How about the following Wednesday?
Okay, what day is that?
Calendar's up there.
The 19th is a Wednesday, and then the 26th is a Wednesday.
26th.
Okay, all right. So I have to post it as not an open meeting, but whatever. it's
As a
called.
site visit.
A site visit, yeah. But it has to be posted as far as I have learned.
It's posted, but we don't necessarily have to have file minutes or do or invite the public. We can, however, that doesn't mean that we won't have notes that we take in the meeting that will at some point become record.
Okay, so there's agreement that I post a site visit for January 26th at 10 o'clock in the morning, weather permitting.
Mhm.
And if that doesn't, if we can't do it because of the weather, then we'll move it to the next Wednesday.
Did you say 10?
Is that okay, 10 o'clock?
Yep,
That's
fine with
fine.
me.
Yeah. I think it's really hard to stay in there for more than an hour and a half. I've been finding it pretty difficult.
Does
If we start-
everybody have good masks? I mean, like the N95 or whatever that other substitute.
We do, yeah.
We do.
Because I was thinking that this is a really good time for those. And I have the rubber gloves too, I can bring.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so that we're not getting, absorbing mouse poop and inhaling
Yeah.
mouse poop the whole
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so gloves of some sort anyway, or gloves that you can get rid of or wash.
Yeah, I have some disposable. I have a couple sizes. We have them at the farm stand, so
Okay.
they
All
wear
right.
out too if they get used too heavily, so I'll bring a bunch of them.
Okay. And the town collection, is there anything to be said about that? Oh, yes, there is one thing. We had an inquiry that came through the Berlin Library, and that was a gentleman named Francesco Buccella. And he is trained in library science and has some archival background as well. And Barry and I, and anybody else, I was thinking of Edie because she's on the custodial committee, but we want to meet with him and see what his special interest is, or interests are, and see if there's a way to, to take advantage of his willingness to volunteer.
He's about 30 years old. He has a master's degree in library science. He's got some real background with some archives work in different institutions, including the library at Harvard University. He lives in Hudson now, and he has a job in the Worcester area, and he seems to be looking for something that he can work on as a volunteer. But I think what he's looking for is different tasks that would be useful to his resume.
Mhm.
And June and I have been talking about a variety of things, from going through the files and getting all the photos into acid-free containment, working with the computer and entering stuff in that, in experience with Past Perfect computer program, a variety of different things that we've been trying to come up with, and we need to talk to him and find out what he's interested in doing. I mean, there's any number of things that we can work on. I might also say that whatever we come up with in that might well affect what we buy in terms of archival materials for storage purposes this year. We've already started working on a list of things to buy with some of our budget money, and Edith has some ideas about it, and so we're kind of working on an order, and perhaps by the time that we meet next month, we'll be able to recommend a an order in that regard. It's possible we have to always watch for the sales, because when they have a sale, we can really get the stuff a lot cheaper. Last year, they didn't charge, they had a period that they didn't charge the shipping fee. And therefore we got, it costs us about half as much as it usually does. So sometimes we just have to act quickly if we find a deal. But I just mentioned that once one of the things we're doing, and depending on what a project, that if this gentleman has some ideas and things he'd like to do, we may have to buy some materials to support that project.
I'd also like to thank Janet. She's done some research on de-accessioning and the whole process of, all the criteria that you can consider.
And the
when you-
research was very minimal, June, I have to confess to you, but it was out there, very easy to see, and everybody seemed to be repeating the same things. So, yeah, stuff you've all thought of, but it just affirms it, how we might go about making a decision.
Well, we need to be intentional, and this is,
The Sudbury Historical Society has an excellent policy on that subject. I don't know if you found that one.
I think I did. I
Yeah.
stopped writing.
I have a
things
copy
down.
of that.
Yeah.
They have done an excellent job in
Yeah.
defining the requirement.
It's very helpful, and I don't know if you guys, I think you guys have stuff in your attic too, just like we do, and
Okay.
you're grinning. And
We haven't done as
Also
much with
to-
de-accessioning as we have with some other things.
yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting for the whole community maybe, because we all seem to have stuff we don't know how to get rid of.
That's right. And they could always donate it to a yard sale.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things that that they inquire about in the grant process, is the amount of fundraising. And
Mm.
we're gonna need a program of fundraising, not us. The Historical Society is going to have to get serious about that, because you have to show intent.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of started that today with getting Jane over there. She was really helpful. So that.
Is there other business we need to do, or we?
And did you want to discuss the document I put together identifying the areas of responsibility, and given the hour for the next round of grants, and given the hour, we probably don't want to touch on every item. But I'd like to recommend that we at least look at the 4 or 5 items I identified in my email as something this commission needs to address in a reasonable period of time. Your choice.
What's the date on that?
You,
That's the one we sent out early this morning.
Oh, today? Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't
don't think I've seen
been on the computer today, so.
it's almost 8:25. Do people have focus enough to to do this?
that. I just-
Yeah, the same as
what?
I'm asking for
Focus.
the general
Oh.
agreement here.
How, has everybody read it? I always like to have had a chance to read something first.
Certainly, everybody ought to read it, and I could just highlight those 4 or 5 items. We don't need to, I don't think, go into a lengthy discussion. It's just a matter of flagging them, so.
The asterisk items,
That's correct.
yeah.
Oh, that.
I think at some point we should go through all the items, not this evening, but I think as a minimum, I would like to at least touch upon and bring your attention to these asterisk items, because I think we have to, as a commission, act in a reasonable time frame to address them.
So this
Is
is
everyone
the
up for that?
4-page one, right? The 4-page
Sorry.
one that,
I don't even know what it's about.
These are,
Don't say anything. Just let's move on and get it off our table as soon as we can.
okay, go ahead, Carl.
Okay, the first item is item number 1, and we've already talked to some length about that, and that's getting an architect on board. And I think we have to try to do that as soon as possible. When you consider the procurement cycle, to award a contract to an architect or anybody, you're looking at 2 or 3 months for that to get done. I think, it's necessary, however, whatever the outcome of the grant is, we're going to need one for the 100K that we have in the bank. So that's why I put a priority on that. I'm going to just move through these quickly. If you want to go back and address them individually after we can, or we can just call it a night. Under 4A, okay, the only reason there's a 4A because I didn't want to renumber everything. There's no significance with 4A. But under that, and we touched upon this already about having the billet house empty so that we can take photographs to support the grant. The next item is item 11. And again, we touched upon this, ground disturbance. The language says we may require in the grant document, but we know we're going to have ground disturbance, so there's no question in mine that we're going to need that. I'm prepared to take the action to go out to get an estimate from this ACS company. If I can get those documents we talked about earlier on our computer, the photo and the plan outlay. So I can forward that and a work statement to the gentleman there, Greg. Item, let's see, was that 14 that I just talked about?
11.
11, okay, sorry. So the next one, what is it, 14? Is that what I got on my list? Yeah, 14, all right, 14. So this is important, and again, this is one of the reasons I did the cash flow document, which we discussed earlier. But a couple of things that we need to understand. Because of the state's payment schedule, which isn't that prompt, and because they have a limited amount of funds, they're going to require that we have on hand cash of 75% of the total. So if we get a $200,000 grant, we need to have $150,000 in cash in hand. So that's another reason to get the CPA funds that we're going to be applying for this month. Satisfy that requirement.
16.
Okay, just let me just see. Okay, yeah. All right, going to 16. On any of these grants, all right, you can't just say, yeah, we're going to do that, or yes, we've done that. You need to put supporting documentation to make it a viable grant. One of the things they emphasize is they want to know what our fundraising efforts have been. So historically, and based on what I understand so far, it's been the Historical Society that has done the fundraising. There has been some fundraising done in the past. It's not very current. I'm not aware of any fundraising efforts being planned at the moment, but I think the Historical Society Board of Directors have to seriously look about getting a fundraising activity as soon as in the works. And I'm talking community-wide, not just calling certain people, community-wide fundraising effort, so that when we do submit the grant, we can say, look at the marvelous job we've done and as a town. And yes, we're serious about this. And we have this money that we've raised on our own to help support this project. So those are the major items I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. Take an opportunity to read it. Maybe at the next meeting, if you want, we can go through item by item. Again, it's the flag, the major things, the most important things.
Just take what he's given us.
Those are the items that I've identified as things we should look at in the near term.
In
Thank you.
particular. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey,
And we will all try to review that so we're in shape to talk about it more usefully at our next meeting.
Excellent. Very good.
okay.
Thank you for all that
Is
work.
there any other business? Just to tell you that the Society and the Commission have a little program that's being put on by, hosted by 2 society members, Catherine Waugh and Pam Dona. It's on February 2nd. It's a Valentine program, has some little have some historical information, but it's kind of a workshop. They'll have materials for people to make Valentines, and then there'll be tea and cookies, a little bit of social time attached to it. I'm helping with the historical end of it, and they're planning the workshop part and the treats. So if you spread the word about that, I think that all of you have the poster that was created. And if you can download that, if you want to give it to someone, or you can just email it to anybody that you think might be interested. You have to RSVP, because we need to make sure that if there's any problem, the people that want to come are notified of any cancellation.
And it's entirely possible if they got a lot of people returning, they might have to have a second date or something, because we've obviously got to keep the actual numbers down. But this, I think, is going to be in the town hall.
Right, and I think it would be okay if we asked for donations, and I could make a little sign, or talk to people about the purpose of the donations for our efforts at the Bullard House. It's kind of a low-key way to raise money, but we might get $50, who knows?
Yeah, there is one thing, we are gonna have signage, both with the CPA and with the state,
If we win the grant.
if we win the grant.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we can do that here.
That's in
That's in the future, but
that's in the details. And
Yeah.
when you all have had an opportunity to read the document, we can go over all the points in more detail if you like.
Okay. Any other business? We can have a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Harry in favor.
Janet?
Kyle,
Yes, mhm.
yes,
And
I'm
Elaine?
yes.
And Jim. Aye. Okay, thank you.
you're
Thanks
welcome.
for all your
Okay.
Have a
hard
good
work,
evening.
everybody.
Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening.